What up? What up? What up? Welcome back to the Scorecard, the boxing scorecard, where I ask people to bring your scorecard and an explanation, not just simply your opinion. Last night we had the biggest showdown in boxing in recent years. Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Bud Crawford. Let's get right into it. This really solidified Terence Bud Crawford as the #1 pound-for-pound best boxer in the sport of boxing today. Let's get a quick breakdown of the fight and then get into more specifics on why he's up there on that level. Round one was close. I gave round one to Errol Spence. Just barely, he just landed a little bit more. But that was it. After that, it was Terence Crawford all the way down the line from there. Just to give a little bit more specifics about each round, though. That second round, I think Crawford won with his power jab, that FU jab that I like to say, making your opponent's head snap back. Not just touching, but making the opponent's head snap back with that FU jab. That's what I got. I gave Terence Crawford that second round. The third round, it just looked like Crawford just stepped it up a notch higher each round. That third round, my notes for third round was just that Spence was a step slower. Crawford was just simply landing more with accuracy. I forget what the final punch stats were, but Crawford landed 60% of his power punches. 60% of his power punches compared to like 30% for Errol Spence. Fourth round. After the fourth round, my notes for the fourth round was Spence was 2 steps slower, simply 2 steps slower. After that fourth round is when I had to realize and say to myself, like, we are realizing we're watching something special right now. We're witnessing something. We're witnessing greatness right now with what Crawford is doing to Errol Spence. Round five, I marked it as a close round. Close, but not good enough for Spence. Close, but not good enough to give it to Spence. Still gave it to Bud Crawford. Round 6, trying to make it ugly, but not. Yeah. My notes for round 6 was Spence at this point realized that he was not able to outbox Crawford, so he was trying to make the fight ugly, trying to get close and just get on the inside and make it ugly. But Crawford was comfortable doing that too. Very comfortable doing that too. And so, yeah, even though round 6 I marked as a close round 2, still give it to Terence Crawford. Round 7 is when Spence went down 2 times. And yeah, this was just pure domination at this point. Round 8 and 9. I don't know if it was round 8 or 9 that the fight got stopped, but let me double check on Boxer right now. Which one was it? 9. Round 9 is when it got stopped. Right before that, about 1 minute before the fight got stopped, I was not yelling, but I was saying that, to throw in the towel. A couple of people at the fight party. Shout out to my boxer Carlito. Shout out to my homie Dash. They were yelling, "Nah, don't throw in the towel. Don't throw in the towel." This is where the coaching comes in, because your pride might tell you not to throw in the towel. As a fighter, you don't want the towel to be thrown in, but as the coach, you got to live. You got to think about the future of your boxer and realize that this was not their day, and to save them for another one. So, about 1 minute before that stoppage happened, I was telling them, like, this corner might have to think about throwing in the towel. But the referee did his job and stopped it in that 9th round, because it would have just got worse. The same way how in the Sean Porter fight, when his corner threw in the towel, Porter probably could have continued, but it would have got way worse than it was going. And this fight, it would have got way worse for Spence, the way that it was looking, at least. Boxing, all you need to do is land one shot to change it around. But not in this case. In some cases, it's better to be safe than sorry. My motto behind that is always, because boxers, their pride will always say, they never want their coach to throw in a towel. That's your pride saying that. But what I always say is, I'd rather you be mad at me for stopping it too early rather than me coming to visit you in the hospital because I stopped it too late. So, yeah. Shout out to that. I got to give a shout out to my boy, Andre Georges from the Border City Boxing Club. My man, he shared the ring with both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. And he was saying from years ago, I know everyone, in the past couple of weeks was going back and forth or saying Terence Crawford, but Andre, he was saying this from years ago that Terence Crawford was going to dominate and stop Errol Spence. So shout out to Andre. He was a very good boxer himself, amateur and pro, and now he's a very good coach too. But yeah, man, he was saying this years ago. He was at the fights too. Much respect to you, Andre. Much respect to you. Yeah. Let's get those picks going like this. Yeah, this. Anyways, let's get into it. Now, as far as the pound for pound list, now when people talk about their pound for pound list, it's very subjective. I guess I hope that's the right word that I'm using, because there's not any like specific criteria to say, there's no specific criteria or rules to say, to say that this person is going to be on the list or not on the list. It's really just who you think should be there. So that's why sometimes it's hard, because sometimes people just go with their favorites as opposed to looking at it from totality, not just the resume, but all the things, the eye test, the resume, level of competition, all that stuff. Terence Crawford raised that bar for that number one pound for pound list. Let's go through that. There's certain things. These are just my specific criterias for the pound for pound list. And yeah, make some comments in the comment section. I can't check them right now, but I'm gonna check them after I get through this list here. Take a quick sip of the water. So this is my criteria for the pound for pound list, to make the pound for pound list, which is the number one best boxers, the top 10 best boxers in the sport. So if you're undisputed in your weight class, if you're undisputed, which means you have all the belts, you at least have to be consideration for top 10. Now, there's an asterisk beside that too. We'll get to that one after. But if you're undisputed, which means you have all the belts, you should at least be in consideration for the top 10. Maybe not number one, but at least top 10, because you're obviously the best at that weight class for that time being. The other one, this is not in any specific order. If you moved up in weight class, and convincingly beat the champion or a top 5 guy, if you moved up in weight class and convincingly beat the champion or at least a top 5 guy in that weight class, you should be considered on a pound for pound list. The other one is, if you have more out of your record, if you should have more unanimous wins than split decision close fight wins, where people are arguing whether they think you won the fight or lost. You should have way more unanimous wins, where not just the judges but the public opinion, everyone clearly sees that you won the fight too. Of course, there's some fights where the judges might give it to one person, but the public opinion is different. Nothing like that. You need to have clear unanimous wins from the judges and from the public opinion too, to make that list. The other one, passing the eye test, and there's a little bit of under criteria under that. So passing the eye test basically means you look very good against lower level competition. No disrespect to the lower level competition, not everyone could be a champion, not everyone could be A level. There's levels to this, like Meek Mill said, there's levels to this. So on your way up, you're fighting D level, C level, and then B level competition until you prove that you're good enough to compete against the A level competition, right? So passing the eye test means that you're looking good against the guys that you're supposed to look good against. perfect example of that is Boots Ennis right now. Boots Ennis definitely passes the eye test, and he's had some very good. He's looked very good against some B-level competition. I think, after, a while ago, the past couple of months or even from last year, a lot of the boxing world were saying that Boots Ennis is ready to beat Terence Crawford and Errol Spence right now. And I said, you guys, everyone needs to slow down. Everyone needs to slow down because he definitely passes the eye test. But as far as resume and level of competition, not so much. Not yet. And after last night, I'm very curious to see if everyone is still that confident that Boots can take out Terence Crawford. Definitely do not see that happening right now. Yeah, Terence Crawford definitely is up there. Now, this is what I meant about Terence Crawford raising the bar. Where are we at? This is what I meant about Terence Crawford raising the bar about the criteria for the pound-for-pound list. Not only do you have to win be undisputed, but it's how you want it against the level of competition that you want it against. For example, just because you're undisputed doesn't exactly mean that you're unanimously the best person at that division. A perfect example is George Kambosos. No disrespect to George Kambosos. He is a top 5, at least top 10 boxer in his weight class in the world. Top 10 in the world is George Kambosos. But when he was undisputed after being Teofimo Lopez, he was not favored to win against Devin Haney, who went to Australia and beat him twice, convincingly, unanimously. So even though George Kambosos was undisputed in his weight class, he wasn't exactly the best. He wasn't clearly the best in his weight. So what Terence Crawford did last night by raising the bar, it was not only did he make himself undisputed, but he did it against clearly the champion of that weight class. Not just the champion of that weight class. I forgot to mention this too. If you have a convincing win against another top 10 boxer in the pound-for-pound list, that's what makes you number one. So I kind of skipped ahead there. So I was saying, if you become yourself undisputed, not only did you become undisputed, but you beat the champion who everyone knew that champion was very good, Errol Spence, who everyone knows was a great, still is a great fighter. The only person that could do that, I believe, to Errol Spence was Terence Crawford. So those were just the criteria to make the list. Now, this is different. To make yourself number one, again, this is just my criteria. It's not the only criteria. Everyone could come up with their own thing. To make yourself number one, this is what Terence Crawford separated himself. Is that he did it against someone that is also not only top 10, but definitely would be top 5 in most people's pound-for-pound list as best fighters in the sport of boxing. Let me just talk about my man Inoue. Very good boxer. Yes, he should be on the pound-for-pound list. Where on that list, I don't know. I do not think he should be number 1. And this is the reason why I came up with this thing here. So Inoue's been dominating all of his fights. Had a very, very good special performance against Stephen Fulton a couple of days ago in Japan. Dominated him. I was not expecting that dominating performance. Much respect to Inoue for that performance. That is what for me, that performance for him was what for me put Inoue at least at the 10 making the list, but at number 10. The reason why I say that, again, much respect to Inoue, but I can't put him at number 1 because of the level of competition. The fight that he had before this with Nonito Donaire You know, everyone was praising him for that one. Nonito Donaire is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he was 37 years old when he had that fight with Inoue, a close fight. That's why they had a rematch. Inoue stopped him in the rematch when Donaire was like 38, 39 years old. But this is what I mean. Like, yes, Inoue has dominating performances, but, you know, there's a reason why, you know, some of the promoters in North America or even in the UK brought him over there to make him a global star. He's very big in Japan. I'm sure he's making millions in Japan. But globally, like, you know, if you want to be a global star, you got to fight in North America or at least in the UK. And the reason why I don't think he's done that is because the level of competition is not there. You know, there's 3 pounds, these four division champion, in those lower weight classes, like 3 pounds difference in the weight classes. Once again, much respect to Inoue. He is definitely one of, you know, on my top 10 list, but at number 10. Definitely not number 1. The reason why, again, Terence Crawford, not only did he become undisputed, but he did it against someone who everyone would at least consider Errol Spence. If he's not in your top 5, he's at least in your top 10. If he's not in your top 10, you shouldn't even be commentating about boxing or watching boxing. Terence Crawford had a dominating performance against one of the best boxers of this generation in Errol Spence Jr. Dominating performance. That is what makes Terence Bud Crawford the number 1 pound for pound best boxer in the sport of boxing today. Clear. There's no question. And again, there's other guys you can put in there from if you want to but you know, you got to put Canelo in there. Charlo at Undisputed at 154. He's about to fight Canelo. He should be in consideration too. Again, like I said, if you're undisputed, if you moved up in weight class and had a convincing win against the champion or at least a top 5 guy, more unanimous wins than split decision wins. Passing the eye test, meaning on your way up, you know, had highlight stoppages or knockouts versus B and C level competition. That's to make the top 10 list. But to be number 1, you got to beat someone else that's on that top 10 list. Yeah, these punches right here. I was looking for pictures of highlights of the fight. I was trying to find some highlights of Errol Spence doing his thing too, but this fight was not what I expected. Convincing, dominating win by Terence Bud Crawford. What is next? What is next for Crawford now? Well, let's see what is next for Spence first, because again, shout out to my homie Sam who was saying like, no way, that was a 50-50 fight. Is you can say that now, but going in, anyone who said they oh yeah, this picture right here. This is exactly what Crawford was looking like last night. That arm was looking exactly like that in the fight. But going into this match, there's no way. If anybody was saying that they were convinced that one guy was going to dominate over another one, you know, there's not. It was really more them betting with their heart. Again, I got to shout out to my boy Andre. I got to get him on the show. I got to do an interview with my boy Andre Georges. Again, very good boxer and a very good coach right now, because he actually shared the ring with Errol Spence and Terence Bud Crawford. So he's one of the only people that can give us personal insight on how, you know, how both of them were. So I got to get him on the show. Much respect to my boy Andre. He's one of the only people that was saying years ago that Crawford was going to do his thing like in this fashion. I just thought, you know, at the level, you know, Errol Spence, again, I don't think there's anybody else at the welterweight division that can do that to Errol Spence. Not to mention, Errol Spence, not that he had trouble making this weight, but he already has plans of moving up to 154. He said after the fight that there's already a rematch clause. Like I know everyone's going to be saying like there's no need for a rematch, but it was already in the contract that whoever lost was allowed to call for a rematch. So assuming he's going to do that, but Errol Spence said that he was hoping that the rematch would be at 154. Most likely not, because Terence Crawford is obviously the person that won the match is gonna get to have the better negotiations on the terms of the contract. Yeah, again, this punch right here, this is what Errol Spence's head was turning all night long like this. Yeah, he was not expecting that. Nobody was expecting that. What else we got in the rankings? Who else we got? So who could Spence go from here? Where's all the comments at? No comments yet. Who could come at? Who's next for Errol Spence right now? Who do we got at 147? I'm sure he's going to take some time off, just to rethink things. But again, I don't think there's anybody at welterweight. All these guys from shout out to the Canadian Cody Crowley from Peterborough, doing his thing in Vegas, worked his way up to top 5. Well, yeah, Cody Crowley is top 5 in all the major in WBC, WBA, IBF, and IBO. Oh, except for WBA. But in the top 3 weight class belts, Cody Crowley is he's number 2. No, yeah, number 2 or number 3. Much respect to the Canadian Cody Crowley for that. You got Ugas, who Spence just beat in his last fight. Before that, who else we got? Boots Ennis. Should we see Boots Ennis versus Errol Spence first as one more test for Boots before Crawford? Yeah, I think so. I think we should see Boots versus Crawford first. I mean, Boots versus Spence first. As I'm watching the highlights of the fight of Spence go down. Boots versus Spence first. If Boots can convincingly win against Spence, then they should definitely make that fight with Crawford. So that's what I think should happen first. Boots Ennis, except Boots Ennis looked very good in this last fight. The fight right before that, I forgot homeboy's name. Where are we at here? The fight right before that. Yeah, I forgot homeboy's name that Boots fought, that he went 12 rounds with. That was not that he struggled, but it wasn't a convincing one, not a stoppage. And the one thing that kind of concerned me about that one was that he kind of, instead of taking responsibility for not being able to cut off the ring and stop the guy, he blamed that. He said that the other guy came in not to fight, just to run. And that kind of concerns me because, what that means is that, the ring is only that much big. You should be able, at that level, you should be able to cut off the ring if that's all your opponent is doing is running, and landing punches from there. Cutting off the ring, if they move to your left, using a hook to stop them there, moving the other direction, using a cross or hook to stop them in that direction. So that kind of concerned me when Boots was talking about, his opponent wasn't there to fight. He was just there to run. But then in his last opponent, Roman Villa, he looked very good. But as I'm looking here in the top list, I don't know if I'm missing it, but Zolt Durrani, another Canadian, is in the top 15 in the WBO. But I don't see Boots Ennis' name anywhere on here. Why is Boots Ennis' name not in these top 10 lists? Anyways, Boots Ennis versus Errol Spence Jr. first. That's what I think should happen. Again, this picture right here, that hard straight cross from Terence Crawford. Look how relaxed he is too. Look at Terence Crawford's face. Look at both of their facial reactions in this picture right here. Full extension on that straight left, turning his hip. You can tell he turned his hip and pivoted his foot. This was just a picture perfect picture right here, but a masterclass. This is what you call, I think the word masterclass is kind of thrown around a lot when in boxing these days when a guy has a very good win. But last night was simply a masterclass performance by Bud Crawford. One of the things, shout out to my boy Mike Carter too, who's been the #1 Terence Crawford supporter for years too. Mike, I know you were betting Crawford with your heart, but come on, you got to admit, even you weren't expecting that dominating performance from your boy. Much respect to my boy Mike. But yeah. One of the things, the defensive things, of course, you guys know I'm all about the defense. One of the defensive things that that Crawford was doing last night was actually opening his hand in his glove to cover more space. Obviously, in a boxing glove, you can't straight up open your hands like this, but you can make a tighter fist to make you have a harder punch. But you can also like open your hands a little bit. It doesn't seem like it makes much of a difference, but you can go from here to adding an inch more of defense, just covering up like that. So what he did, and one of the, I'm assuming it's a drill that he practices, but he blocked and came back with the same hand. A lot of times I have the boxers do the drill where, there's a round where they, I don't care what you throw a couple punches, block and come back with the same hand. And then the next round will block and come back with the opposite hand. Most fighters are more comfortable doing one or the other. A lot of coaches only stick to one way. A lot of coaches only coach blocking and coming back with the opposite hand. I say me as a coach, I say your reflexes should be just as good with anything, because you could be in any situation in there. You could be in a situation where you can take advantage of blocking and coming back with the same hand, or you could be in a situation where you can block and come back with the opposite hand. Whatever is open, you need to have the reflexes and the instincts to be able to come back. Yeah. Again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, so I'm just going to stop it right here. Much respect to Terence Bud Crawford, once again, the #1 pound-for-pound best boxer in the sport. Yeah, man. He could take on Boots or he can retire. I think his pride. If anything, if Terence Bud Crawford, if he fought Boots and beat Boots, he should just retire after that. He should just, even if he retired now, you know what I'm saying? He's, once you're getting into the mid to late 30s as an athlete, obviously in real life, mid to late 30s is not old, but in professional athlete age, when you're in your mid to late 30s, that's basically like being like in your mid 50s. The power is always there. The power doesn't leave you, but the general athleticism leaves you, the reflexes and the reaction time. And in a sport like boxing, where your reflexes and reaction time is everything, that split second of getting your hand up, or that split second slower of not getting your hand up, is a world of a difference in your performance. So Terence, I believe, is 35 years old now, 35 or 36. So yeah. As long as it all depends how good he feels. There's not too many of the all-time greats, whether in any sport. LeBron's still doing his thing at 37 years old. Yes, I mentioned LeBron. LeBron's still doing his thing at 38 years old, I think he is now. Floyd was still doing his thing. Floyd, let's not forget, Floyd schooled Canelo at 36 years old. Everyone used to talk about Canelo's too young. Canelo was a pro for 8 years and had 40 fights. Floyd was 36 years old when he did that to Canelo. Oh yeah, that was my other thing I was going to bring up. As far as great performances or fight of the year, I mentioned this a long time ago. The traditional way, let me take a sip of water before I get into this part. The traditional definition of the fight of the year is for most people, for the general boxing public, is just two guys, whoever they are, um, knocking each other down multiple times during the fight, where it's back and forth, and not too much good defense is being displayed by either fighter, either because they're hurt or just because, So that's the traditional criteria or definition of a fight of the year, is when there's multiple knockdowns during a fight, and then the end result is probably a knockdown. One of the best examples is, Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. They had a classic 3 wars together. And in more recent years, we had Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Yes, Wilder and Fury were just as exciting as the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward fights, where it was just two guys getting knocked down multiple times. Yes, Tyson Fury won 2 out of the 3 fights. But because there was multiple knockdowns in each fight, like Tyson Fury, much respect for him for having one of the toughest chins in history. I'll give Tyson Fury that. Tyson Fury has one of the toughest chins in history, simply for the simple fact that Deontay Wilder has one of the hardest punches in boxing history. Deontay Wilder has one of the hardest punches of anybody ever putting on a pair of gloves. And Tyson Fury got up multiple times from that. So for that alone, Fury definitely has one of the toughest chins in the history of the sport. Anyways, my whole point of bringing that up was that's what made those fights considered fights of the year, because there was multiple knockdowns. Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward, Deontay Wilder and Fury. I'm sure other people could come up with other examples, but like going back to my specific criteria for fight of the year is when there's a fight before the fight, it's between 2 exceptionally high level boxers. And then when the fight happens, one fighter just straight dominates the other guy. Or girl too. Happens in females too. Shout out to the females. That's my criteria. When before the fight, it is literally 50-50. This fight, there's no way. There's only a few people that can convincingly say that they knew that that type of performance was going to happen from Crawford. So anyways, going into the fight, it was 50-50. And then when the fight happens, one boxer just straight dominates the other one. That for me is a fight of the year and performance of the year. The last time that there was an exceptional performance like this that I can remember was Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez, when they fought for their title. Going into that fight, Oscar Valdez had probably the knockout of the year against Burchelt, Miguel Burchelt, a couple of fights before that. Not just runner-up for knockout of it was the knockout of the year. A very good back and forth fight with him, with Burchelt. Oscar Valdez was still is considered a top 3 boxer in that division. So going into that fight was 50-50 for me. A lot of the people, not everyone was convinced Stevenson was going to win. I was, just because I always liked his skills. But and then it went out and Stevenson just straight up dominated him. It went 12 rounds, and even recently, Valdez said himself that Stevenson is special in what he did to him, specifically when he talked about his defense. So anyways, my whole point of bringing all that up was that my fights of the year are fights between 2 even level guys, where when the fight happens, one guy just straight dominates the other guy. Not in a mismatch, but he made it look like a mismatch with his skills. So yeah, there you have it. All right, that's enough talking for today. Once again, much respect to the pound for pound best boxer in the sport today, Terence "Bud" Crawford. Yeah, man, he definitely earned it. Shout out to the Talkin Fight YouTube channel, the number one Talkin Fight, the number one boxing YouTube channel out there. We got the scorecard, we got the knockout of the week, we got all types of shows every day of the week, 7 days a week. So make sure you Like, share, subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, check me out on my YouTube channel, Cedric Sports Training. You can catch me on any social media at Cedric Sports. Yeah. The scorecard. Bring your scorecard and an explanation, not just simply your opinion. Yeah. Shout out to Talkin Fight. All right, peace.